Wetangula was missing from that particular press conference.
Conspicuously.
As the senator would say, conspicuously.
But we do understand on official business.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now that you brought that up, yes, an opportunity to explain to us where was Moses Wetangula yesterday from the press conference.
Moses is actually in Australia on official business from the Senate, and I believe he should be back by next week. I think I saw some caption that was explained, but I know Senator Wangari is coming out strongly suggesting that already the Code collision and the NASA thing is not working out. I believe
as a Code co-principal, I'm sure he must have sent a representative. Who represented him this
we didn't see Halwale, Eseli.
No, honestly, I think we're reading too much into nothing. Normally, it's Simiyu Eseli who is here.
Yes.
There are times you see Simiyu Eseli representing Senator Wetangula.
Yes.
And sometimes you see Simiyu with Raila, former Prime Minister Raila. Then you have, let's not read too much into it. I think for me, Senator Wangari, is this. What Jubilee should be worried about right now is if these people stay together under the NASA thing, you don't lose Kalonzo.
Back to this headline. We will discuss the NASA issue in a short while.
About this NASA thing that has been in the head of Musalia.
Yes, we will be discussing the NASA issue in a very short while.
Okay.
It's part of our agenda. Now we're talking about the demand by Code.
Thank you. Let me.
We need to pick new IEBC team in the next 14 days.
Let me come back there.
The question is that even possible?
Let me come back there.
That by 23rd of this month we'll have new IBC commissioners.
I happen to be in the group of the Code members as a member of parliament, and I want to say this categorically. I hope I will be wrong. We are rushing this exercise. We are pushing an agenda where everybody, because people are not brave and courageous enough to say, let us even increase 3 more months to these things so that the elections take place in January or in February or in March, for the simple reason that the timelines which we have given ourselves are actually not going to work. I have looked at it, and many of our colleagues in parliament, when we sit and discuss this thing, you will find members of parliament saying, Mheshimiwa Onyonka, the truth is, the way we see it, because we belong to Jubilee, we cannot discuss this, because then it looks Jubilee doesn't want to hold elections, because we are in COD. Many of the members say, we wish some of us could tell Jacom that, why is it that we can't increase even for 3 months? But at the same time, Kenyans want elections. It's a catch-22. Kenyans want elections. Kenyans don't want anybody right now to say, we can't hold the elections in August. And of course, as a member of parliament, if you start talking that, then your opponents begin to say, you see, he's chickening out, he knows we are going to remove him. But the truth is, there is a worry that the commissioners who already we have given a soft landing and they need to leave, the former commissioners, need to leave office. The problem that you have, what the complication is, and I think this is what Code is saying, that the people who are leaving are the ones whom you are allowing to continue and start working with the procurement. They are the ones whom you want to bring in so that they can do the BVR kits. What happens if after they have purchased these BVR kits, the elections come and they don't work? Are you then again going to bring the former commissioners and use them as an excuse? Or, like Prime Minister said, why don't you let these people go, bring in the new commissioners coming in, get a new chairman, let the responsibility be on this new chairman, so that whatever decision he or she takes will be held accountable.
On that note, I've just been Bwana Kimo Sopa just alerted me to this advertisement on page 47 of the Daily Nation, where IEBC has actually advertised for publication of names. That's the selection panel for the selection panel for the appointment of commissioners of the IEBC has published names of applicants shortlisted for the position of chairperson of the IEBC and interview dates for those applicants, and the interviews are slated for Monday 19th of December. So the question is, 23rd, which is 4 days later, do you think that date, as demanded by Code, is actually feasible?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe just to say something. You know, it's in our interest, both divides of the coalitions and the parties, that elections are free and credible. Because even as in Jubilee, we don't want to win in a contested election. We want to win fair and square. So it is in our interest that this officers and these commissioners are in office. But I think we also must separate the issue of secretariat and the commissioners. Personally, where I disagree with CORD and their demands is that we have to wait for commissioners for any procurement to take place. Commissioners don't procure, and for me that is it is how organizations are done. The CEO has a whole secretariat working in terms of the processes and the timelines. We can debate the issue of timelines, but we cannot peg every matter on the commissioners, even as the process goes on, because by 16th is when we'll have the interviews for commissioners ending. We can now ending the interviews, then we'll have another shortlist, we'll have and it's a long process. We can debate on the timelines as Honorable Onyonka says, but moving forward we must not, because God has brought even the experts, they call experts, they need to work with the procurement, that you have to consult these ones. I think these demands are not also helping in terms of the independence of institutions. We also must be seen to let IEBC work and to give room.
There's a correction I would want to really make, and Senator Wangari, please bear with me. You know that once you have an institution, there will always be a subcommittee, for example, which handles issues of tendering. In that subcommittee, usually the chairperson is one of the commissioners.
My understanding
is
that when the new law that you passed, the elections amendment, the package, it actually stipulates very clearly that the role of the commissioners is three. Strategy, oversight, and policy. It's very explicit.
So who's going to oversight the procurement?
That is now what
the
political message. My understanding.
Who's going to oversight the BVR kits? Once you brought the kits, hold on, bear with me. This is such an important, because people in court believe they lost elections because the BVR kits failed. If you are going to allow the CEO of IBC to go and procure these BVR kits and they fail again, who's going to be held responsible?
I think the challenge, I understand my comments will be limited for reasons that are obvious to the members of this panel.
He's a candidate for IBC commissioner.
And I think I understand the political, the message from CORD is the political accountability, in the sense that the role on oversight that the commissioners should play in terms of what has been procured, is it in line with what the specifications or the requirements? That is very clear. But the other question which I think to the political establishment is, how do you balance, therefore, also Honorable Onyonka and Senator Wangari, that also you allow the commission to do its job? Because also that is one of the questions we had to face during the process. That's what I'm saying. As in, how do you ensure that you do your job but also protect the independence of the institution?
In your own opinion, what do you think would be the ideal date for us to anticipate new commissioners?
Article 10, I now quote the law here. Article 10.2 of the Constitution says, gives the 16 national values. One of them is the rule of law. And under the chapter of representation, our elections is done on the second Tuesday of every fifth year in August. So I think it is possible to deliver an election next year. That is what Kenyans ask, and we have to obey the law.
In terms of getting IBC commissioners with the process?
That was the question I also asked the panel. If you remember, it was live interview, so I'm just repeating. I'm repeating what they told me. They said that before Christmas they expect to have given all the names to the president.
So it is possible.
The question is, actually the challenge will be is that 14 days still falls within, because they will do the interview for the chairperson on the 19th and on the 20th. Those are 10. So 2 days later for consultations they can agree. That takes you to 22nd.
So by 23rd, the day that CORD is demanding, the names could be with the president.
They could be with the president. Okay. So, but the challenge with that is, does the appointment, and I think since he's the CORD representative here, does their statement mean the appointment by having gone through the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee and National Assembly? Is that
because that's a different process as well?
Because that's a different process. What is that message? Is it
because once the selection has been done, then the chair and even the rest of the commissioners have to be brought to the House.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, and then the House has to. I mean,
will
realistically, no, you can be recalled. It's a matter of national importance.
Yes,
definitely.
So
it can have
the
a
question you have, which I need to ask is that, so does the 14 days mean for the selection panel to finish the business, or it includes all the
assumption is that it includes all the processes.
I don't think it's tenable, but for the selection panel to have names, I think it's tenable. The parliamentary process can take maybe longer, but I think that is something we
can live with.
Many.
It can take maybe 2 days.
We can live with, really.
Okay. So
but in
by
terms of
23rd, the best that could happen is that the names could be the names from the selection panel could be with the president.
Realistically, for me, by New Year, that is more realistic.
Okay.
And we all want that to be in place. I think we must agree that both
because
sides, it is in our
argument
interest.
was just about the date.
Yeah, it's in our interest that
let's move on now to another discussion still on politics, and very interestingly, CORD now Raila seeks Mwakwere support in vote hand.
No, I think that that for me is the normal thing, because even the president and the deputy are going out seeking people from different areas, even where they do not get votes. I think what interests me is the issue of that press conference and the absence of Wetangula, the entry of Mudavadi, you know, the realignment in CORD.
And we will get to that. Senator Ray is very excited about that.
The reason I'm excited.
Let's get it from the CORD side of the coalition. Yesterday, CORD leader Raila Odinga held a meeting with Kenya's ambassador to Tanzania, Chirau Ali Mwakwere. His former critic, in a bid to cement his hold on votes in the coast region. And it's the same thing that we keep saying when it comes to politics. There are no permanent enemies or friends, because listen,
it was the UK Foreign Secretary of State who said that one time, that the UK does not have any permanent friends nor permanent enemies. We only have permanent interests. So I think you see, one of the, let me just look at the chronology. Let's starting with 2007. 2007, so actually 2002, Uhuru was on the same side with William Ruto, right? In 2007, William Ruto was working with Raila, and then Uhuru was working with Kibaki. And then come to 2013, even 2007, Kalonzo ran on his own, and then then they joined Kibaki. Then even the relationship
which costed the Prime Minister it is said, which costed the Prime Minister his ability to actually legitimize.
And then in 2013, they were, even Wetangula was on the same side.
So Wetangula was on the same side.
But on the Mwakwere one, I think you'll have to agree with me that in the politics of Kwale County, the fact that Governor Mvurya has been picked as the leader, so to say, of Jubilee in the region. Mwakwere is an interested gubernatorial candidate. So what we are seeing is the permanent interest agenda, because he's an ambassador today. Really?
Yeah,
he is an ambassador, courtesy of the Jubilee government. So it is the normal permanent interest.
Because of time, I want us to discuss the NASA issue, because the senator can't
before you go to NASA. Before you go to NASA, for me, I would like to say that what is happening in terms of the CORD team looking for Mwakwere is purely what has happened. That is why they are looking for Musalia. I believe Musalia is joining CORD in a very serious manner. That is why Wetangula used to be with.
And that's what we are discussing now. That is exactly what
I just wanted to ask Fred. You see, does it necessarily mean that when Raila meets, for example, an ambassador and everything, he is a Kenyan also like any other Kenyan? Why is it that? And I'm asking.
The implications,
political implications.
Is he a Kenyan like any
other? No. But he's not an ordinary Kenyan.
Actually, he met the governor of Bomet. He met the governor of Bomet. You have not heard that in the media, that is actually wooing governor of Bomet to join. He can meet anyone.
You see, that's what I'm saying. Okay, at times
like a political strategy.
It's a political statement that at times
it is.
Anyway,
just being seen
even in politics is political. Even
I think
and even as we start this discussion about NASA, when Raila Odinga went to Tharaka Nithi recently with and accompanied by Musalia Mudavadi, you saw the kind of reaction that even came from former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka, that he even said tomorrow I'm going to have a meeting with Raila so that he can tell me exactly what was happening, because and that is what is captured in the cartoon on the Daily Nation today, that The caricature on page 14 of the Daily Nation, if my directors could help me show that, is seemingly, it seems to show this would be Raila Odinga walking down the aisle with Mudavadi, 2017, and those holding the, what do you call this? This gown.
I don't know what
the gown back there. It appears to be Kalonzo Musyoka and Wetangula, and they're asking themselves, is it NASA
or Naswa? Yeah.
Yes? That's the kind of uncertainty that captured in that caricature. It's a caricature
Senator
by
Wangari
the Daily Nation.
Excited.
Yes. Now, Senator.
Because she's expecting the ship to tank.
No, not really. You know, every time there's a new marriage and new proposals, you get excited, and I think I'm actually in my right to
excited because of the marriage.
The reason I'm excited is that this NASA thing, enter Mudavadi, exit Wetangula, you know, or exit Kalonzo, because Raila is now like choosing a bride out of the 4 or 5 people who are angling for it. The status quo, Kalonzo insists on status quo, that I have to remain on. In fact, he says I have to be the presidential candidate. Same to Wetangula. Now, Mudavadi has stirred the waters. In fact, this NASA idea has been a Mudavadi idea from the beginning. It has been in his head for so long. It's now time it's coming onto the forefront. But I think more critically is the agreements they are proposing. Really, I find them laughable that we are talking of MOUs to actually create 2 vice presidents, a prime minister. I think they are living in utopia. They are living in a different constitution or dispensation, that they want to promise someone that will give you a vice president, another vice president. Moving forward, I think they're in utopia, and they're talking issues that we don't understand as Kenyans. And we were talking about the history of MOUs, actually misunderstanding of understandings. You cannot peg.
Senator, allow me, because I know what you're alluding to. There's also a headline on page 8 of the Standard. Raila and Kalonzo discuss NASA structure, and the possible structure of leadership in the National Super Alliance NASA can now be revealed. That's according to the Standard. And there's a proposal there to have the lineup could be expanded to create additional positions such as 2 vice presidents, a prime minister, and 2 deputies. And this, according to insiders, will be done once the elections are held, a referendum to be held within 90 days to create the new positions which will be filled. That is what you're alluding to when you're talking about...
I'm alluding to that, because you can only promise something if you're doing that referendum before. We have seen them try to actually collect signatures, and they drew some funny shapes in the signature sheet to actually push for a referendum. It's not possible. And I think doing promising a referendum so that you peg someone to come to you and as a bait is not going to work.
And before Bonakimosop, you comment on this, Senator here asks a very valid question, and she says, enter Mudavadi, exit Wetangula. Do you agree with that? And because yesterday, and it's very telling when you miss out Wetangula or his lieutenants, Eseli Simiu or Boni Halwale, from that press conference, and it could be dismissed that yes, he was away from the country, but where was Eseli Simiu? Where was Boni Halwale? I hosted him here in the morning, so he was definitely in the country. Boni Halwale. How come none of them was present at that press conference?
I think for now, for me, that is too much ado about nothing. The truth is, Wetangula is in Australia. His lieutenants are around. The fact that his people, representatives of Wetangula, were not in this press conference, for me, let's not read too much into it. What we should be worrying about right now, if I was in the president's team advising him, I would be worrying what to do with this NASA thing. Because the truth is, we kept on having second thoughts. Oh, you know, there's no way that Deputy President Ruto is going to work with Uhuru. It is impossible. It is unacceptable. The reality is, you know what happened in 2007. We kept on talking about it until when these 2 young men got together, formed a coalition, moved on, and look at what they did to us. So I would want Jubilee to stop reading too much into how this thing is going to fail. Kalonzo is going to be cantankerous and annoyed because he has not been promised this or that, and then Musalia is coming, and Musalia is messing up everybody now. Anyway, where has he been? The truth is, if this NASA things comes into fruition like it was during the NAC Kenya issue and during the Rainbow Coalition time, if all these leaders decide to stick together, irrespective of who's going to become the presidential candidate. I've even had issues where people say, you know, the truth is, for us, we don't believe that Honorable Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga is actually going to agree for somebody else to come in and run as a presidential candidate. What if that happens?
And it can happen.
But it can happen. So let me finish, Fred. So what I'm saying is this. All that Jubilee needs to do for now, figure out how you are going to talk to Kenyans for them to understand on what your successes have been, and if there have been failures, and there have been very many, so that the public maybe can understand why the failures took place. But if you concentrate trying to expect that this NASA thing is not going to work, the truth is we have historical perspective. Ruto joined Uhuru Kenyatta when none of us expected them to be together, and they delivered their presidency. This time around, I know that Prime Minister Raila Odinga can decide to pick one of these candidates. And imagine if you bring Wetangula, you bring Kalonzo, you bring Mudavadi, you bring Raila, you bring Gideon Moi in, and then you bring the Johos from Mombasa, and the coast people agree to vote for CORD, man to man. Jubilee is in trouble.
Bonakimosop, at what cost? Because now we are seeing the kind of suggestions coming out of this, trying to glue that super alliance, trying to make them work together. The kind of promise that we are seeing, two deputy prime ministers, two vice presidents, a prime minister's position, is that the kind of cost that it appears it's not very easy for the opposition to hold?
I think I will elevate the conversation asking, so what lessons do we draw from all these developments? Number one, it's very clear that our politics moving forward will always be politics of coalitions. You cannot be able to say, I, Onyonka, I'm running on my own, the Obama type of, even Obama built coalitions among minorities. So it's very clear that our politics moving forward will always be a politics of coalition. The person who pulls and puts together a formidable coalition will carry the day. That is one lesson. Number two is also when you hear people talking about more positions, prime minister, one is that it is not only speaking to the coalition, it speaks about the whole element of maybe they are passing a message that our government will be all inclusive, and we want to make sure that even that will be, you will see it from these positions that we are having. So the other question that then therefore begs is that do we have fewer positions in the current constitution that we need to unpack some of them, or is it possible that, you know, for a long time, this narrative that for us to benefit, you have to be in power? I think
you have to have
this is what even Honorable the Mheshimiwa pointed out at the beginning, that in Africa, for you to be able to benefit from the system, you have to be closer to power. So the question then that begs is that when we passed the new constitution, it was meant to ensure that people access resources and services irrespective of their political affiliation. So the final thing that I want to point out is that I think there are developments on Wangari. Now Wangari represents Jubilee. I am a consultant. Let me advise the two factions.
And our time is almost up.
Okay. I think there are developments in the African continent, Wangari. You guys need to be very wary about the developments in Nigeria, the developments in Gambia, the current developments in Ghana. And you see, one of the things that happens is that when we have elections, you are not immune to developments locally and internationally. Let me even give a parallel to the ones in the US. There is a strong movement by the rightists. That is what Donald Trump capitalized on. And you can see the same thing from Brexit. You can see what is happening in France. You can see what is happening also even in Italy, in Germany, and also in Austria, whereby the rightist movement is actually gaining traction. So when people at times are tired of the establishment, one of the challenges is that it can galvanize a movement. Whether CORD has been able to develop and put that together, that is also another question. And then the other thing that I think to CORD...
As you make your final comment.
Oh, my final comment?
Yes.
Okay.
My director is telling me that
I hope, because I said I was going to advise both sides so that I don't seem to be hard. I think for me, what CORD needs to do is to sharpen its message and to fortify its base, so that what Wetangula used to say, that you do not lose ground as you are gaining more ground. You have to fortify what you have. So be good to ensure that the coalition they put together, it does not lead to what Senator Wangari has said, that enter Mudavadi, exit. If such happens, then it affects the coalition. So my final submission I wish you to have started with the politicians. Please start with the politicians.
Okay,
final
submissions. Very briefly.
I think I hear Kimosop in terms of the development, but we also need to put it in context, because what happened in Gambia was a long-term, you know, the presidency in Kenya has been capped. You cannot do more than 2 terms, and I think that is a difference in our democracy, that we will no longer have 24 years rule of one single president, and I think that we are far ahead in terms of that democracy. But we are also not oblivious of the fact that CORD have capitalized on that and really hammered as an anti-establishment. But I think the government has been ready. The Jubilee government is not even come. It is actually delivering in their mandate and their manifesto, and I think that is what we have a disadvantage with, and we are ready for the NASA. For the NASA, really, you also must know that we are not sleeping, that guys are not sleeping even in Jubilee, because we anticipate that we expect it can be a storm that we have to deal with. But ultimately, it will go to the people, and the people will decide. Maybe to wind up, there's a very good program that I would want to allude to on Tuesday that will happen by the National Democratic Institute, NDI, in terms of women aspirants. We are profiling 5,000 of us in the country who are running for different positions. And forget the women positions. I think we need to encourage more women to come up to vie for governor seats, to vie for senator seats, to vie for MP seats, because these numbers have been very elusive in the parliament. We still have less than a third in the National Assembly. In the county assemblies, we are doing even worse. So in terms of encouraging women, I would also want to make an appeal to all the political parties, even as we establish our structures, that we need to make sure we are cognizant and give affirmative grounds to the women parliamentarians in terms of paying the nomination fees, in terms of giving a leveling ground for us who are running for the seats that are not women representative seats, because we are having it very tough. I hope my friend Richard Onyonka can do that in the CORD areas, because out of the 16 women in the National Assembly, actually 14 are from Jubilee. I hope CORD can do better to get more women in the numbers in the
Okay, thank you, Senator Onyonka.
Senator Ongari, on the issue of women reps, I support you 100%, and when you're in Nakuru, if you have time, please call us. We'll come and drum support from our people to support you if they are Jubilee members.
I have enough in Gilgil, and they're Jubilee
exactly.
That's where I'm running.
I wanted to say this. I think for me, the Kenyan politics is transforming itself and mutating and is very dynamic. For the last 6 months, I think Prime Minister Raila Odinga has actually shifted the level of engagement politically in this country to the level whereby, without even worrying about what I'm going to say, he's been the front runner. But the responsibility is now much more weightier on him to make sure that once again CORD, or for that matter ODM, doesn't lose the elections which are coming. We do a brilliant job. We mobilize the public. The crowds are huge in our political rallies.
Make sure they vote.
But our people don't vote. Our numbers don't add up. Even when we go to the last minute, we always make certain mistakes, and of course the issue has been on the IEBC. I believe that he's right on the issues of the IEBC, that we should have a credible, believable and acceptable IEBC, which when they announce the election results, everybody should say, we agree. Even if the difference is 3,000 votes, we should say, we accept. Finally, I want to say that for me, the rest of the NASA team, I think it is upon Musalia, it is upon Kalonzo, it is upon Wetangula, it is upon all the people, including all the people like Joho, who are putting a lot of energy and resources into making sure that ODM. And I don't think that the issues which ODM has been raising can be wished away. They are critical and fundamental issues. Land tenure systems. The issue of I'm finishing, the issue of jobs, in terms of whether the Kalenjin community and the Kikuyu community has created a fortress around them where jobs are distributed according to what they got in terms of them winning the elections. I think this country needs to change. I believe that CORD has a very good chance now of winning the presidency, but again, it depends on what the NASA team does, and it depends on what Jubilee will do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bwana Onyonka. Finally, Bwana Kimosop, and our time is really up.
Okay. I think today is a World Anti-Corruption Day. I think it is important that as a country we reflect on the gains that we've made in the fight against corruption, and also what needs to be done. And the fight against corruption not just being a sectarian issue of one side, it is what we are doing as a whole. I also want to say that then it is good for a country as we also move towards celebrating the International Human Rights Day, which is going to be the 10th tomorrow, that they are not things that are done just on that day. They are things that on a daily basis we inculcate them into our cultures and into our values, because when you build a human rights state, when you build a country that upholds the rule of law and good governance, it's not only good for this generation, it is also good for the next generation. And then I think to wish everybody, Honorable, let me start with the lady first, Honorable Wangari, you Fred, and a good weekend, and